Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, ma'am.
So today I will start the new section of or this unit, that is the central nervous system. It is unit 3. Okay, so from the very beginning of the central nervous system, I will start with the brain, the spinal cord, and all the structures and so for this chapter, you can study from King and Morgan. King and Morgan. You can note it down. The author is King and Morgan, or you can study from Munn, M-U-N-N-U-N-N, Munn, Introduction to Psychology. So from there also you can study this central nervous system. There is a chapter, Physiology and Behavior, in Munn, M-U-N-N. It is the author of this book. He is the author of this book. That is the name of this book is Introduction to Psychology, and as well as you can study it from P.N. Bhattacharya, P.N. Bhattacharya, or from Baron, B-A-R-O-N, the name of the author, Baron. So if you want, you can note the name. As all of you will write from your study material, so for good marks, you can study from these books also, right? King and Morgan, Baron, P.N. Bhattacharya, okay? And there are some other books. I will tell you the names and the author's names later on. So, from the cerebral cortex, first of all, in the previous chapter, we have studied about the nerve, the neural impulses, and then from this chapter, the first and the foremost part is the central nervous system, which consists of the brain and the spinal cord, the main two sections of the central nervous system, and the integrative control center, which controls all the functions of the several organs of our body. And this central nervous system, then it is another part of the nervous system. It is the peripheral nervous system that I told you in the previous chapter or unit. Now the peripheral nervous system, it consists of the peripheral nerves. That means the cranial and the spinal nerves. The peripheral nerves, that means the cranial and the spinal nerves, and mainly the communication between the central nervous system with the different parts of our body. Now this peripheral nervous system, it is divided into main two broad divisions. What are they? They are the sensory divisions and the motor divisions. Now sensory divisions, it is also known as the afferent neurons or afferent divisions, and the motor divisions, it is known as the efferent, E-F-F-E-R-E-N-T, efferent divisions. Now the sensory or the afferent divisions, it is composed of the sensory neurons that you all know, and the conducts. What are the functions of this type of neurons? Mainly the conduction, or it conducts the signals from the receptors to the central nervous system. Now this efferent division or the motor divisions, it is composed of all the motor neurons. Now what are the functions of these motor neurons? To conduct the signals from the CNS to the effectors. Now then, this motor division, it is also divided into two main broad parts, or the autonomic nervous system, or the ANS, and the somatic nervous system, or SNS. Now this autonomic nervous system, its main function is to control the involuntary responses, while the somatic nervous system, or SNS, its function is to control the voluntary movement. Now, what is voluntary movement and what is involuntary movement? Now, that we cannot control by our own will are the involuntary responses, right? And the voluntary is just the opposite of it. Now, again, this ANS is divided into two main broad divisions, that is the sympathetic division and the parasympathetic division. Now, there are some specific or fixed functions of the sympathetic division. What are they? It mobilizes the body systems and flight or fight responses. So, these are the two main broad functions of this sympathetic division, while the parasympathetic division, it is the consents, or it conserves mainly the energy and rest and digest responses. So these are the main broad divisions of this CNS, or central nervous system. Now this central nervous system, mainly it consists of the brain and the spinal cord. Okay? So this brain and spinal cord, it is the two main parts or organs of the central nervous system. And you all know that the brain is located within the skull. It is a bony structure, and it continues with the spinal cord. Okay. So these are the most important part of the central nervous system. Now, while we study the central nervous system, we will go through some important terms. So, number one, it is the meninges. Now, what is meninges? They are very delicate structures in the which are protected by some bones. Okay, and they covered with the help of this meninges. Now, these meninges are three thin membranes or soft tissue layers that protect the CNS, or the central nervous system, which is known as the dura mater, or arachnoid membrane and pia mater. So these are the three soft tissue-like membrane. Okay, so these are the names of these three soft tissue-like layers or membranes present. They are the dura mater, the arachnoid membrane, and the pia membrane. Now, another protective mechanism is the presence of a fluid which is mostly colorless, and that is known as the cerebrospinal fluid. And it is found in the central canal. It is found in the central canal of the spinal cord, and the cerebral ventricles, which is a hollow section of the brain that protects, and it protects just like a cushion, a covering, okay, a soft cushion-like structure. So the patients whose cerebrospinal fluid is drained in some way, maybe due to some accident or some disorder, or maybe some uh, any other problems in the body, so they suffer from this intense headache and intense pain while jerking their heads. So, in case of any tumor, or the fluid accumulates in the ventricles and causes the walls of the ventricles as well as the brain, to expand. So this condition is known as the hydrocephalus, right? So uh, just before starting the spinal cord in detail, that means the structure and function, let me just tell you about all these about what is the central nervous system or what are the structures mainly. Now, I told you that the brain integrates the inputs from the sensory receptors and delivers the motor output to the brain. Now, this total function is a very complex because it, number one, it regulates the heart rate, the breathing, that means the circulatory system, the respiratory system, then the consciousness, and all the cognitive functions that you all know, thinking, perception, sensation, memory, or any type of ability that is controlled by the brain. And the spinal cord is placed within the spinal column. Okay, so these are the main structures or what we have in the central nervous system. Now, the next or the most important part is the spinal cord. Now, what is this spinal cord? There are some fixed structure of this spinal cord. It is a cylindrical shape or a cord-like oval shape, and it is 45 centimeter in length for an average person. So, it is placed within a spinal column, and the cord is a very, very delicate structure, and it is protected by the cranial bones. There are small pieces of bones joined together and the vertebra that surrounds it. Now, there is pair of spinal nerves that you all know when you have studied in the previous section of the neuron. I told you about the pair of spinal nerves. That means there are 31 different levels of the spine. So the pair of nerves, one is attached to the left side of our body and the other is attached to the right side of the body. That means it controls the left portion of our body, and while the right pairs, it controls the, or right pair of nerves controls the right portion of our body. Now there are two places where it bulges. So that is the cervical region and the other at the lumbar region. So there are two places where it bulges. Number one, it is the cervical region, and number two, it is the lumbar region. So you can get these some short MCQ questions like what are the two sections that bulges? Like they are the cervical region and the lumbar region. Now there are a number of vertebra that surrounds it, and there are two deep grooves in the spinal cord. What are they? They are the anterior median fissure and the posterior median sulcus. So there are two deep grooves rather in the spinal cord, and in the middle known as the anterior median fissure and the posterior median sulcus. Now there are nerve roots that enter and leave the spinal cord. So the dorsal nerve root, it helps to send the information from the sensory receptor to the spinal cord. And the ventral nerve root, it carries motor information from the spinal cord to the parts of the body. So just the opposite. Now, if you see in a cross section way the spinal cord, then it is evident that it is comprises of two different areas. What are they? They are the gray matter and the white matter. And The inner core is just like an H-shaped area, capital H-shaped area, which comprises this gray colored matter, and is mostly it constitutes with the cell bodies and unmyelinated interneurons. Okay, so the surrounding area, it comprises of white matter which constitutes the myelinated axons. So these are all about the structures of the spinal cord. Now, what are the functions of spinal cord? Let us see. Now, there are several functions of spinal cord. The spinal cord, it is responsible mostly for the simple reflexes that are taking place in the body. And the neurons of the spinal cord are responsible for sending the information to the brain from the sensory receptors, that means the eye, ear, nose, touch, skin, etc. and to deliver the information received from the brain to the muscles and other glands of the body. Now, while we study the spinal cord, we will go through some important organs or tracts or name of some tracts, like there are some bundle of nerves together known as tract, T-R-A-C-T. Now, each tract serves one major function. That means there are various tracts. Now, each tract has individual functions. So the spinothalamic tract, it is one type of tract which includes the axons that originate from the cell bodies of the neurons located in the spinal cord that end in the thalamus. Now, these tracts are responsible for the sensory functions. That means the touch, pain, the temperature, etc. The sensation of all these. And there are some major ascending tracts of the spinal cord that serve important functions, like the lateral spinothalamic tract. Its function, its individual function is the responsibility of pain, temperature, touch, and the anterior spinothalamic tract is involved in crude touch and pressure. Fascicule gracilis is involved in only touch and conscious kinesthesia. Now, what do you mean by this kinesthesia? Kinesthesia is the awareness of the position and movement of the parts of the body by means of sensory organs in the muscles and joints. I am again repeating what is kinesthesia. Kinesthesia, it is the awareness of the position and movement of the parts of the body by means of sensory organs in the muscles and joints. So, these are some of the important functions of this particular tract. Now, this fascicule gracilis is involved in only touch and conscious kinesthesia, and this anterior and the posterior spinocerebral tract is involved in subconscious kinesthesia. Subconscious means there are three stages of consciousness. Okay, the conscious, subconscious, and the unconscious, right? So, in this subconscious state of kinesthesia, it is responsible for only this type of functions. Okay. Now, the major descending tracts of the spinal cord are two, mainly the lateral and the anterior corticospinal tract, which has some individual functions, like it involved in only the voluntary movement, and that is we can control the movement which we can control. That means the muscle contraction of hands or feet, that means movement of our limbs. Then medial reticulospinal tracts have some inhibitory influence on motor functioning, while the lateral reticulospinal tract have a facilitatory influence on the motor neurons going to the skeletal muscles and the rubrospinal tract, which helps in coordinating body movement and posture. Now, let me tell you one thing. When you will study these functions of spinal cord, you just note all the tracts, the name of the tracts, and just write the functions of each tract. Then only you can remember all these name of the tract and the individual functions. Okay. Now, the spinal cord, mostly its function is to serve as a reflex center for many reflexes, and it is the center of the reflex arc, wherein number one, the incoming sensory impulses are converted to the outgoing motor impulses. That means the conversion of the incoming sensory impulses to the outgoing motor impulses. So these are all about the functions of these individual tract present in the spinal cord, and thus the main important role of the spinal cord is the integrator. It is the integrator center in the brain and being responsible for gait, posture, reflexes, reaction to some noxious stimuli. Now, what is this noxious stimuli? Do you know? Any toxic stimuli or any negative stimuli that is that you can see. Okay, so these or see or you can feel. So that is the noxious stimuli. So the next slide, I will start with the brain. Now, what is brain? It is located at the top of the CNS or central nervous system, and it is protected by the skull, which is a bony structure, and it is interconnected with the body parts, with the brain stem region to the spinal cord. Now, this PNS, it extends from the brain to the regions throughout the body and back again, sends and receives this neural signals that provide the informations related to number one, pain, number two, pressure, or touch. That means see all the sensory actions. Okay, pain, pressure, touch, movement, balance, and the senses of vision, audition, smell, as well as taste. So the cortex or the neocortex is the seat of the human cognition and the sensory processing. So before start, while I will start all the structures, so I will start with some slide view of the brain. That means if the brain is sliced using three planes, and these planes resemble to actual slicing done, for instance, at the time of post-mortem examination, or virtual slicing using this magnetic resonance images of the brain that you have studied already in the first chapter. Magnetic resonance images of the brain. So there are three planes. If you see in the sliced or in during the post-mortem examination, you can see that the slicing sideways. See, there is a diagram or figure 3.5 in your study material where it is shown clearly segregated or divided into C, the sagittal plane, the anatomical localization and planes in the human brain, mainly the lateral, the medial, and here that means medial is the middle portion, while lateral left and lateral right, both the sections on both sides of medial, and the coronal plane see in just at the bottom of this structure of brain, and on the extreme left the upper portion is the dorsal while the lower portion is the ventral, that is the axial horizontal plane. So this is a side view of this left hemisphere of brain. So the same picture is on the right side of the brain. If you take the picture from the right side of the brain, then the same thing you can see just on the opposite side. So this is one figure or one way of seeing the hemispheres or the horizontal while we just during the post-mortem, if you slice, then you can see that there is an axial slice, there is an horizontal slice, and there is a sagittal slice, and there is a coronal slice. So what are they? So I will tell you in brief. The slicing sideways across the brain so that the left and right hemisphere are exposed is known as the axial slice on both the side of the brain, that is right and left, and it is also called another name, that is a horizontal slice, because it is a horizontal cut across the brain. And the second way to slice the brain is the sagittal slice. So if you cut like this, then you will find that you will see that these are the way, or these are the sections of the brain you can see. The sagittal plane slices the brain vertically from left side to the right side. And the coronal slice is when the brain is sliced vertically from the front of the brain to the back. Now, the other related terms are that I told you, the dorsal, that is indicating the top portion of the brain, the ventral, that means the bottom of the brain, then the front of the brain, it is the anterior, and the back portion, it is the posterior. So, the dorsal, ventral, anterior, and posterior. And the middle part of the brain is referred as the medial section, and the left and right outside edges are called the lateral. Okay. So these terms are used to denote where the region in the brain is located, and once you are familiar with these terms, then you will be able to identify the relative location of the brain area. So this is one way of seeing the main structures of the brain. But there are some other figures in your study material that you can see. That is 3.6. Here it is given that all the different individual parts, that means the where is the frontal lobe, the limbic lobe, the parietal lobe, then where is the white ring-like section is the corpus callosum, then the orange-like portion just above the pons, it is the stratum, and the pineal gland, there is a gland just at the bottom of this orange ring-like section, it is the pineal gland. Now, mainly the portions of the brain, if you see from this angle, that is the frontal lobe, the limbic lobe, the parietal lobe, and the occipital lobe. Then, what are the organs, or what are the organs present in this particular region? Now, let us see. So you all know that an adult brain is a large organ. It is the controlling system of the whole body, and approximately 1.5 kg It weighs approximately 1.5 kg in an adult person, and it is very soft and jelly-like structure or substance. The brain, it keeps growing till one reaches an age of 18 years. So it is a very, very delicate organ, and it is protected by a bony structure known as skull. And there is a layer, the first layer, you all know that meninges that I told you just now, it is a soft tissue-like layer. It protects the brain from any shock, any damage from the outside. And there is a first layer under the skull. It is known as the dura mater, which is thick and tough. Then comes the next layer, that is the arachnoid membrane, and which is mesh-like, soft and spongy. So there are various membranes, and the main functions of these membranes is to protect the brain. Then below this layer, there is a fluid, which is known as the cerebrospinal fluid. It is also known as capital CSF. And the final layer is the pia mater, which is another soft tissue layer. Now, you have heard about the meningitis. Now, what is that meningitis? It is a potentially a fatal disorder which is caused when these layers are inflamed because of any viral attack, any bacterial infection, any damage, any accident, or due to some tumor or cancer, etc. So this brain is surrounded by CSF and it floats. So there are 4 ventricles in the brain. What are they? The 4 ventricles are the that I told you. 4 ventricles are 2 large ventricles are present in the middle portion of the brain, and 1 in each hemisphere are known as the lateral ventricles. So this located below this is the 3rd ventricle and 4th ventricle, and it is located between the cerebellum and the brainstem. So this is the main function, or main structure rather, and the ventricles, it is filled with the fluid that is the the cerebrospinal fluid. So there is a lateral view. From the lateral view, we can see what are the main structures of brain. That is in the figure 3.6. And there is another figure, that is 3.7, where the 3 main broad structures are present. That is the forebrain, the above or the upper portion of the brain, the midbrain, the middle portion of the brain, and the hindbrain, which is the lower region of this brain. So the forebrain, it consists of the structures of the cerebral cortex, the basal ganglia, the limbic system, the thalamus, and hypothalamus. So the forebrain, it consists of the structures of the cerebral cortex, the basal ganglia, the limbic system, thalamus, and hypothalamus. We will study in detail of all the structures and the functions of it. While the midbrain, it includes the tectum and the tegmentum structure, while the hindbrain, it consists of the cerebellum, pons, and medulla oblongata. So you can see in the figure 3.6, it is given where is pons, where is medulla oblongata, where it is connected with the spinal cord, where is the brainstem. Okay, so the pons, the medulla oblongata, and the cerebellum are also known as the brain stem. So the cerebral hemisphere are situated on this brain stem. Now, the first section that we will study in detail is the forebrain. Forebrain. Now, it has mainly two divisions, that is the telencephalon and diencephalon. The two divisions of forebrain are known as the telencephalon and the diencephalon. The telencephalon, it includes number one, the cerebral cortex, the basal ganglia, and the limbic system. So these three sections are present or included in this telencephalon, and it is the largest division of the human brain. So the cerebral cortex, it covers the two cerebral hemisphere with the basal ganglia and is placed in the subcortical area in the brain. The diencephalon, it includes the thalamus and the hypothalamus, that means the optic chiasma and the pineal body, that you can see in this figure 3.6. See, it is given. It is the pineal gland, see, is controlled by this pineal body, and it is present between the cerebrum and the midbrain. So I am again repeating this section because it is the most important part. Forebrain. So forebrain has two broad divisions. They are the telencephalon and the diencephalon. Now, this telencephalon, it includes the structures are the cerebral cortex, basal ganglia, and the limbic system. And it is the largest divisions of the human brain. While the cerebral cortex, it covers the two cerebral hemispheres, while the basal ganglia is placed in the subcortical area in the brain. Now, this diencephalon, it includes the two regions of brain, mainly the two broad regions, that is the thalamus and hypothalamus, and as well as the pineal body with the optic chiasma. So it is present between the cerebrum and the midbrain. Now, these are, see, the forebrain, these are the structures that I told you. Now, in detail, we will study what is the cerebral cortex, one of the structure of this telencephalon. Now, the cerebral cortex is 2 to 4 millimeter thick, and it is the top of the cerebrum. So, it is outer observable part of the brain, and there are millions of dendrites that synapse here with the other neurons. The presence of small unmyelinated neurons in the cerebral cortex gives this grey colored substance, and it is known as this grey matter. Now, there are some small or big bulges which is known as convolution, and there are some grooves between these bulges, that is the sulci, S-U-L-C-I, and the larger grooves as fissures. So, I am again repeating this part. There are some grey colored substance, that is the grey matter, and the layer beneath the cortex constitutes of large myelinated axons, which gives a white color and hence is referred as the white matter. Now, there are some small and big bulges present which are known as convolutions, and there are some grooves between the bulges. The smaller ones are known as sulci, while the larger grooves are known as fissures, F-I-S-S-U-R-E-S. Now, there are various functions of this cerebral cortex. The postcentral gyrus functions as a general somatic sensory area, and it receives any type of sensation like touch, temperature, or any type of pressure, maybe external or internal. And the precentral gyrus, it works as a somatic motor area which is involved in the motor responses and maintaining the body position, that means in the right position of our body. So hence the different areas of the cortex have important sensory functions to perform. So you can see that the sensory functions are controlled by the cerebral cortex, and the primary visual cortex, it helps in mapping the visual information as well as the auditory information, and along with registering simple information, it also helps to compare and evaluate the sensory information. Thus, it helps in integrating information pieces together into more meaningful perception. So these are all about this cerebral cortex. So let me tell you all the functions of this region. It helps in the total controlling of the individual's muscles, maybe the muscles of the feet, hand, toe, any type of movement, then auditory and visual informations, or mapping these visual information and auditory information, and receiving the sensory information and motor responses, then the mental activities like the language ability, any emotions may be positive or negative, any type of memory, maybe short-term memory or long-term memory, and the cortex is also involved in some other functions like language, like speech or writing language, and it helps in storing and retrieving information, that means the retention part of the memory, and form short-term memory, that is STM, as well as I told you, the LTM or the long-term memory system. So this is all about the main functions of this telencephalon, that is the number one part, that is the cerebral cortex. Now the next part, or the telencephalon, the basal ganglia. Now this basal ganglia, it is another part present just under this cerebral cortex. So the first layer, it was the cerebral cortex, then number two, the basal ganglia, and it is made up of mainly a white matter, mostly which is composed of number of tracts. Now there the grey matter is present deep inside the cortex, unlike the white matter. Now this basal ganglia is made up of some nucleus, some specific nucleus. They are the quadrate nucleus, the putamen, the globus pallidus, and the amygdaloid nucleus. So the basal ganglia is made up of some specific nucleus. What are they? If you get any MCQ type questions from here, so you have to remember these names, because the basal ganglia is made up of the quadrate nucleus number one, the putamen, the globus pallidus, and the amygdaloid nucleus. The quadrate nucleus and putamen have some stripped appearance and thus are known as striatum. So these two, because of the structure, they are known as striatum, and being an important part of the cerebrum, this basal ganglia, it helps in regulating all the voluntary functions of our body, muscle contraction, maybe the maintaining the posture, walking, or making other movements. So if there is any damage in this region, then obviously the movements are restricted, and if there is any damage to these blood vessels, then it causes a local interruption in the blood flow, causing some tissue damage that is known as stroke locally, and these causes a partial paralysis of the body. That means if there is an interruption in the blood in the left hemisphere of our brain, then there will be a restriction of movement or paralysis in just the opposite side of the body, that is the left portion of our body. So this causes a partial paralysis on one side of the body with problems in maybe vision, in maybe swallowing, in maybe movements, stiffness of the limbs, etc. And another important disease that you all know, that is the Parkinson's disease, which is caused by the degeneration of certain neurons in the midbrain that sends its impulses to this basal ganglia. Now, these disease causes the persons to experience some weakness, some tremors, maybe poor balance of the body, maybe rigidity of the limbs, and difficulty in initiating any movements, swallowing, maybe some problems in the respiratory tracts, etc. So these are the main functions of this telencephalon type, number 2 type, that is the basal ganglia. Next comes the limbic system, another part of this telencephalon, which is a very, very important part of this forebrain. Now, the limbic, it means the ring-like structure. So it is known as limbic system, which makes a border around the corpus callosum, and it connects the left region or left hemisphere of the brain with the right hemisphere of the brain. Now it includes some structures as cingulated gyrus and hippocampus, which are connected to other areas of the brain as amygdala, septal, nucleus, hypothalamus, and thalamus. While you will study all these sections, write it down, otherwise you cannot remember all the names of these parts. Okay. And side by side, write the functions so that you can remember. Now, the limbic system is also known as the old brain. So, this is another name of this limbic system. And limbic, the meaning of this word limbic means ring. Now, performing functions related to all the emotional expressions and motivation, etc., are controlled by this system. So since it is involved in the experience of different emotions such as fear, maybe anger, sadness, love, affection, feeding, any type of sexual behavior, fighting, etc., and along with the cortex, it is also known as the emotional brain. So there are various names of this region. Number 1, limbic, it means the ring system. Then it is also known as the old brain, because the main function of the brain, that means the emotional part or emotional expressions or motivations, are controlled by this system. So it is also known as the old brain. And another name of this section is the emotional brain, because all the emotional activities are controlled by this region. So if there is any damage in this area, then it may lead to abnormal emotional reactions to some situations.
Hello,
There is a
good morning, ma'am.
disturbance. There is a disturbance. Sorry.
Hello,
Let
good
me
morning,
finish
ma'am.
first.
Okay, sure.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
Hello.
So this since the yes, please let me finish. Then I will ask you.
Okay, sure, ma'am.
Okay. Now, since limbic system, it also plays an important role in some learning process, some memory process, maybe STM and LTM. Any damage to the hippocampus, it causes some deficits in the memory. That means mainly the retention and the recall part of our memory system. So today up to this, yes, any question you can ask me?
Hello, ma'am.
Hello. Yes.
Ma'am, Shivansh Keshwan here.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, I want to know what is singulated gyrus.
What is? Sorry? What is?
Singulated gyrus.
Yes. It includes
Singulated
a
gyrus.
structured. Yes, yes, yes. It includes the. It is actually a section in the present in the limbic system. It is a singulated gyrus. It is a name of the structure mainly. I cannot explain you the meaning of it as it is a name of the structure, right? It is
Okay,
present
okay,
in the
ma'am.
limbic system and it is connected with this hippocampus, right?
Okay, ma'am. And
Okay,
ma'am,
any
what was the
question?
name you have suggested?
So, yes,
Name of the book you have
yes, sorry.
suggested in the starting of the session.
Yes, yes, yes. It
Hello.
is King and Morgan. Yes, it is King and
King and
Morgan.
Morgan.
King and Morgan, the author's name. Then Baron, Baron. Then Munn's
Baron.
Introduction to Psychology. Yes, Baron,
What, ma'am?
Baron.
Hmm.
Baron. Then
Okay, first is King and Morgan.
Munn's, M-U. You please listen to me. I'm telling you all the
And
names, okay? So Munn's,
okay, ma'am.
Munns, Munn's Introduction to Psychology. So there is a chapter that is physiology and behavior. You can study from there. This cerebral cortex and all the other structures are vividly described in this book. Also, you can study from P.N. Bhattacharya. P.N. Bhattacharya. Then you can study from some other books like Chauhan. Then you can study from some other book like S.K. Mangal, Introduction to Psychology, S.K. Mangal, right? Or you can study from C.C. Chatterjee. It is a book of medical mainly. C.C. Chatterjee. There you can find all the structures and the functions. It is vividly described and explained rather clearly. Okay. So next day I
Oh,
will start from this diencephalon, thalamus, hypothalamus, and midbrain. Right?
Ma'am,
Yes. Yes.
ma'am,
Hmm.
I want to know about the sensory division and motor division. Means the sensory division collects the signals from receptors to CNS, and
Hmm.
the motor divisions they send the signals from CNS to effectors.
Yes. Yes. That I told you just now.
Yes. Okay. Okay, ma'am.
So this is
Ma'am,
thank, thank you, ma'am,
this
for the
four.
information.
Yes.
ma'am, when do the
Yes.
practical classes begin?
That you have to ask to your office. You can mail it or ask. Sorry, I don't know that.
Okay, thank you.
So the dates are not given yet. Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Mm. So please go through it before I start with the next portion of
Ma'am,
thalamus and hypothalamus and midbrain. Yes, it is almost time. Please ask any question if there is any
uh,
question.
ma'am, can you please repeat the names once again of the books?
Yes, the name of the books are King and Morgan, King and Morgan, Baron, Baron, Introduction to Psychology, T.N. Bhattacharya, T.N. Bhattacharya. Then
Ma'am,
I
is it
told you
P or
about
T? Can
P,
you
P,
repeat,
P
ma'am?
for Punjab, T for
Okay,
Punjab,
okay.
N for
Thank you, ma'am.
Nagpur, Yes. There are some other books like C.C. Chatterjee. It is a book, a medical book. From there, you can study the structures and functions of brain and spinal cord. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Now tell me if there is any question.
Ma'am,
Now
hello
one thing
ma'am.
I will tell you. Yes.
Ma'am, can you please again explain the definition of kinesthesia?
Yes, of course. Kinesthesia is awareness of the position and movement of the parts. Kinesthesia, it is the awareness of the position and movement of the parts of the body by means of sensory organs in the muscles and joints.
Okay, ma'am, thank you.
Okay. Any other question? So one thing I will tell you. So you have to practice the diagrams of this forebrain for your exam. See 3.6, the structure of human brain mainly. Then see from the back portion of this chapter, you study all the summaries. There you can find mainly what are the definitions of this CNS, then this forebrain. It is consist of these. All the parts are written here. Then what is the functions of this frontal lobe? Explain the role of brain in consciousness. That I will come in the next class. Then this portion is also very important. That is the main disorders of the central system, the central nervous system. See in the keywords, it is given all the definitions of CNS, brain, spinal cord, aphasia, and the cerebral palsy. Do all these review questions. These are very important for MCQ type. See, there are some references for figure. Here it is given, and references for further reading. You can also study from these books. See, it is written here, Understanding Complexity in Human Brain, Bassett, Carl Renkley, Callett, Biological Psychology. There are some journals also of neurosurgery, journals of neurosurgery. Okay, so for diagram, you practice this diagram for your exam. This 3.6, the human brain, where mostly all the structures are given here. You don't have to color like this, it is given in your book. So just remember all the structure, all the name of the structures, and there you will have to show the main portions of the brain, that is the forebrain, the hindbrain, as well as the midbrain. Okay. Yes, any question?
Ma'am, hello ma'am.
Yes.
Ma'am, actually I have a query about the examination that I have been get admitted on December 2021. So when my exam was going to be conducted?
December 2021. Now see, regarding all these examinations and everything, you have to ask to Vikas Bhavan IGNU section. You go to the information center section and you can ask them. So if
Ma'am,
you
the
have any queries regarding
one exam has
the
already conducted on March
chapters,
this year.
what? Sorry?
Ma'am, the December 2021 exam, it was conducted in this year only in March 2022, as it was postponed to till March. It was postponed, as far as I know.
Okay. Okay. So you can talk with your friends. They will inform you about the examination dates.
Okay, ma'am. And when was the last date of submitting the assignments?
Assignments. The last date is already over. You don't know the date of
Ma'am, it's 31st May. Last date extended is 31st May last date.
That
Okay.
was for June 2020 exams, but for December 2021 it was 30 June. Sorry, 30 June, not 30 April or something like that.
No, it got extended to May. For July
Yes, 15th
2021
May.
cycle, it got
I
extended
I
to
think it
May.
was extended to 15th May, right?
No,
That
30th
it
May.
was also extended to 31st May also.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have got the official notification of that.
Mm-hmm.
Ma'am, I would like to
Okay.
ask one question.
Mm.
Yes, ma'am, the recording of this class, where can we get that?
In Facebook page, in YouTube, you can find it. Okay. You open the RC Kolkata site from the YouTube.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Hello, ma'am. Can you repeat kinesthesia again? After the part of the body.